It is time to give my top 20 goaltenders list after the 2024-25 season. A couple things to go over here first and foremost. Again, this is only top 20. It is based off of the last 3 seasons, 50% 24-25, 30% 23-24, and then 20% of 22-23. You might be asking, Nordic, why are you grading it that way? Just the way I've been doing it for the last 3 years. I don't think I've been making YouTube videos on my top 20, top 50 players and all that. So maybe we'll start doing that now. But let's just hop right into number 20. Number 20, coming out of Vancouver, is Thatcher Demko with a 10-8-3 record this past year with a 2.90 and a .889. I gotta be honest with you guys, the only reason why Demko is on this list because of the previous seasons he's had. This past year was not that great of a year for Demko, but the last 2 seasons, and the last 2 seasons make up 50% of this, he has to be on this list. He just has to be. I can't not put him on here because the last 2 seasons prior were some of the best seasons of his NHL career. You have to include him on here regardless, which is why Thatcher Demko makes it into the top 20 for me. Number 19 is Darcy Kuemper. This past year had a 31, 11, and 7 with a 2.02 and a .922. Was actually a Vezina finalist this past year. You guys can tell that I'm not very high on Darcy Kuemper. And I will admit that there is actually some just personal bias and personal preference here. Not because I don't like these goaltenders, just how I personally grade these guys. And I'm just not very high on Kuemper. And that's not to say that I don't like Kuemper. I actually like Kuemper a lot. He was with my Arizona Coyotes for a couple of years. Has moved around since then. The only reason why he's a little bit lower on the list is just because of the playoff numbers, especially in the last 2 years. Just hasn't been good enough. And then as well as that too, the years prior in Washington were just not great. And I just can't put him in any higher than, I guess, 17. I could move him up to 17, but I really wouldn't put him any higher than that. Number 18 is Anthony Stolarz. This past year with the Toronto Maple Leafs went 21, 8, and 3 with a 2.14 and a .926. He had a phenomenal year this past year with the Maple Leafs, and in the years prior with Anaheim and Florida had some very respectable backup goaltender seasons. He was the best backup in the NHL last year and created a very iconic Nordcast moment. But even so, this guy is just honestly had a phenomenal year, and I really do think there's a lot moving forward for him. But the last couple of seasons have been a really good developmental year. I think if he has another really good year next year with the Maple Leafs, he will shoot up this list even higher. Number 17 is Joey Daccord. This past year with the Seattle Kraken went 27, 23, and 5 with a 2.75 goals against average and a .906 save percentage. Daccord has had some pretty good seasons on a very bad Seattle Kraken team the last couple of years. Just not being able to score, having very mid at best defense. Overall, Daccord honestly probably could be higher, to be honest with you. I just think the way that this guy plays under a not-so-good Kraken team, he really could be higher, but honestly, just because of the fact that his numbers are a little bit lower than I would like them to be. That is why, as a result, he is much lower on this list than he would be otherwise. But I'm a big fan of Daccord. I think Daccord is a very solid, very good goaltender. And honestly, a couple of years ago, I probably would have had him in my top 10, to be honest. Number 16 is Mackenzie Blackwood. With the Avalanche this past year / the San Jose Sharks, had a 28, 21, and 6 record with a 2.66 goals against average and a .912 save percentage. Blackwood had a very good season last year. Really kind of revived his career with the San Jose Sharks last season in a really bad year for the team. He had just under a .900 save percentage, which was pretty good for a team that was really not that great. He gets traded midway through this past year to the Avalanche, plays pretty damn good, and now things are looking up for him in his overall career. The reason why he's not higher on this list for me, honestly, is just the fact that I feel like he's played behind some pretty good defense in Colorado. But I do think he has some really good upside there as a goaltender. And I think that if he has another really good season next year, he will go up even higher on this list. Number 15 is Lucas Dostal from the Anaheim Ducks. Had a 23-23-7 record with a 3.10 and a .903. Dostal barely scrapes into the top 15 for me. Honestly, I really do think he carried the Anaheim Ducks this past year, and really that's the reason why they were up so high in the standings compared to last year. But I really do think that Dostal has some upside to move into the top 10 at some point. Just right now, I don't think he's that. I think that he's put up some great numbers on a not-so-good Anaheim Ducks team. But if I were to do that, then I would have to move up Dackard and a couple other goaltenders who probably didn't even make this list, who should have made this list. So Dostal stands there at 15 for me for now. But I really do think in a couple of seasons, we could see him move up into the top 10. Maybe even better than that. Number 14 is LT Logan Thompson with a record of 31-6-6 this past year with a 2.49 and a .910 with the Washington Capitals. Just had a phenomenal season for them. I think Thompson, honestly, you could argue him being higher on this list. The guys who are above him, though, I just really can't put it to myself to put them above him. But regardless, I think Thompson had a phenomenal year this past year. He's been very consistent throughout his entire career. I really do think that he does deserve more respect, not only from me, but from everybody around the NHL. This guy, almost everywhere he's gone, has put up a .905 or better in every single season. He knows when to lock it down. He was good in the playoffs last year. It's just the fact that there are goaltenders on this list that I just believe are better than him. And that just sucks to say, but I don't know. It's the truth. I really can't really put it past putting him above like guys like Markstrom or Gustafsson or Swayman, notable guys who are above him on this list. So I just really can't do it, which is why he's at number 14 for me. Number 13, and you could actually argue that Thompson is better than this guy, but I have Jacob Markstrom here from the New Jersey Devils. This past year had a 26-16-6 record with a 2.50 and a .900 save percentage. Markstrom definitely was not as good as he could have been this past year. I feel like he could have had better numbers, but honestly, the Devils, all they needed was that .900 or better to make the playoffs. The last couple of years, their goaltending has been very just not so great. They get Markstrom in the offseason last year, and I think that really helped them out in making the playoffs, because otherwise, if they had somebody else in that, I don't think they get in. But Markstrom, regardless, with those good seasons prior with Calgary, that's why he's still in the top 15 for me. Coming in now at number 12 is Jeremy Swayman. Went 22-29-7 last year. Had a 3.11 goals against average and a .892 save percentage. I'm going to have to explain myself here a little bit with Swayman. There definitely is some personal preference here with him. I really do think that Swayman is going to bounce back next season. I really do think he's going to. I think that you miss training camp, especially for a goaltender. It's very hard to come back from that. Just simply being put, it's very hard to come back from something like that. And I think for a guy like Swayman, who had good seasons prior, last year was a very good season for him. The year before that was a good season as well. I think he's going to bounce back. I think, again, when you miss training camp, it just sets you back. You're behind a step, essentially. And I try not to penalize him that much because of just one pretty bad season. It's not like it's been like a gradual decline as these things have gone along. If it were the case, then he would be much lower. But I still think Swayman is still a top 15 goaltender regardless. I think this is just a year we're going to look at as just a down year in his career. I think next season he's going to bounce back. We just need to wait for that. Reaching the halfway mark at number 11, we have Linus Ullmark of the Ottawa Senators, a 25-14-3 record with a 2.72 and a .910. You could very well argue that Ullmark should be in the top 10. I really wouldn't disagree with you, to be honest. You can move him up around anybody from 10 to 8 for me. You could swap him out for one of those guys. But to be honest with you, Ullmark just barely lies out because of personal preference. Honestly, I think the other goaltenders, I just like them more, and I think that they're definitely better goaltenders than him. Ullmark has had some good seasons in the past, but overall, I think that he just barely is outside of the top 10 for me. But still, regardless, a very good goaltender. I think you look at all the goaltenders on this list, one of them was just not going to make it into the top 10. And it sucks, but it is what it is. So coming in here now to the top 10, we have Philip Gustafsson at that 10 spot with a 31, 19, and 6 record with a 2.56 goals against average and a .914 save percentage with the Minnesota Wild. For those who know me, I am very high on Philip Gustafsson. He is one of my favorite goaltenders out there. Again, I really do think that he gets discredited a lot by some people, and I think that he had a very good year this past year. And in the years prior, I know he struggled at points, like last year wasn't that great for him. He had a good bounce back, but the year prior was also pretty good as well in that second half of the season for him. So Gustafsson has had some consistent points, and again, it kind of relates to Swayman. Like, I didn't really want to drop Gustafsson that much just because he had one bad year when all the other years around them were pretty good. So, again, I think Gustafsson, for me, just barely gets in there in the top 10. And overall, I'm a big fan of him. Number 9, and that is right, he makes it onto this list. I have Dustin Wolf at that 9th spot for the Calgary Flames. This past year, he had a 29, 16, and 8 record with a 2.64 and a .910. Just for Dustin Wolf, I think, again, this past year, he almost got Calgary into the playoffs. Like, they barely scraped out just because of how good Dustin Wolf could be on some nights. Just backstop the Flames so many times. And honestly, I really do believe that Wolf is going to be a dangerous goaltender in this league and will be top 5 eventually. It's just a matter of when. If he's putting up numbers like that in his rookie season, I have a lot of excitement and upside for this guy. I just really do believe that he is going to be dangerous this coming year again. And honestly, in the years coming, I really do think he can move into the top 5, maybe even top 3. Number 8, and I'm going to have to explain this one a little bit, it is Jose Saros with the Nashville Predators. He had a 20, 31, and 6 record with a 2.98 goals against average and a .896 save percentage. Saros this past year with the Nashville Predators was not that great. Again, just the Predators as a whole were not that great either. It felt like everybody had a down season for them. It didn't feel like anybody had a good year. So I take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. The last years prior, and even the years that don't even get counted in this, Saros has been very good every single one of those years. And I think that for a guy who just played on a god-awful team this past year, I honestly believe that we're going to see him bounce back next year. I just don't think he puts up below a .900 again next year. I really do think he's going to bounce back. Just the Predators were just so bad. The thing is, too, you look at his advanced numbers, he was actually pretty decent. He wasn't, like, horrible. And again, I think that he had, like, second most shutouts in the league as well. I think that really does matter. Just Saros is still a very good goaltender, just not on a good team at all. And again, you got to factor in the last 2 seasons before that and the last 2 years before that, he was good. Number 7, and this is going to take some explaining. I have Jordan Binnington at the 7 spot with the St. Louis Blues. He had a 28, 22, and 5 record with a 2.69 and a .900 this past year. Binnington, because of the Four Nations and in the playoffs and overall numbers this past year with St. Louis, is why he gets in. The last couple of years beforehand, excluding 2022-23, he just hasn't been that good. And I just got to be blunt. Just the numbers, you look at them, they are slowly decreasing. But this past year was an outlier. The way he played in the Four Nations was just phenomenal to me. I really did not think he was going to be that good. The way he played in the playoffs for St. Louis, he was just very good. This guy gets a ton of disrespect for what he did in 2020 to 2022. Just his antics on the ice and off the ice were just stupid and just being like an idiot. Once he put a stop to that, his numbers got way better, and ever since then, he's been a very solid player, and I really do think that that does matter, and I think that that's why he is just right there at number 7 for me. I could move him lower, again, as I said. I really can't justify putting him any higher than 7, but I really do think that Binnington needs to start getting some more respect in the NHL again. Coming in now at number 6 is when we get to the goaltenders where you're like, hey, we expected them to be here. It is Jake Ottinger then at number 6 with a 36, 18, and 4 record with a 2.59 and a .909 with the Dallas Stars this past year. Ottinger been a very consistent goaltender throughout most of his career. I think this past year in the playoffs was just unjustifiable. The way they pulled him in the playoffs, Pete DeBoer, that is, the way he did that, I just didn't think that was right. I don't think that was Ottinger's fault, the way that they played. Overall, I don't think that that was his fault, and I think that he deserved better from that. He's been very consistent in the playoffs for many years. There has been some just inconsistencies and some troubles in the regular season at points. But when you play an 82-game season, that's how goaltenders are going to be. They're going to have just kind of low points in the season. And Ottinger has had his inconsistencies, but has still been a very consistent goaltender. He is just outside of the top 5 for me, but still, regardless, a phenomenal and elite goaltender. Now, heading into the top 5, it's going to be 4 out of the 5 being Russians. That's actually kind of insane to me. Number 5 is Ilya Sorokin with a 30, 24, and 6 record with a 2.71 and a .907. The New York Islanders were just about what you would expect them to be. They were just meh. And as a result of them being meh, Ilya Sorokin put up some great numbers once again. I really do believe that Sorokin has upside to be a top 3, top 2 goaltender at some point. If he gets a better just blue line in front of him and a better team overall, this guy could really do some numbers. But he's a monster out of the KHL, has had some great seasons the last 3 years with New York. Apart from 23, or I think it was 22-23 was the year where he wasn't really that great. Again, just looking at so many goaltender stats, it really just kind of meshes together in my brain. But for Sorokin, I do believe that he is a top 5 goaltender regardless, has had consistent and good numbers. He is also a very elite goaltender. Number 4 is Igor Shesterkin with a 27, 29, and 5 record this past year with a 2.86 goals against average and a .905 save percentage with the Rangers this past year. Shesterkin had a down year by all remarks, but even still put up some pretty solid numbers. Just overall, the Rangers weren't that great. The defense in front of them was not great. Everything about New York wasn't so good. But on the bright side, Shesterkin got his money. $12.5 million for the next 8 seasons. That kicks in at the beginning of this coming year. We'll see what Shesterkin can do, how he's going to be. But obviously, this past year was a down season. I still think he is a top 5 goaltender regardless. And when he's at his best, he can be number 2. But overall, Shesterkin for me just kind of fell a little bit in my rankings. Moving on now into the top 3, we have Andrei Vasilevskiy at that 3rd spot with a 38, 20, and 5 record with a 2.18 goals against average and a .921 save percentage. Some really good numbers with the Lightning this past year. Just honestly, again, the regular season numbers are without question. Last year was a little bit worse than the years prior, but overall, I really do think that Vasilevskiy has been a consistent goaltender throughout all of his career, more or less. The reason why he is not number 2 is just because of the playoffs. The playoffs the last few seasons have not been that great. Just his overall numbers have not been the best. I know that, again, that's not all entirely on him, but even still, he should have better numbers with the Lightning than he's had in the last couple of seasons. Number 2 is Sergei Bobrovsky with a 33, 19, and 2 record with a 2.44 and a .906 save percentage. Bobrovsky did not have the greatest regular season numbers and has not had the greatest regular season numbers the last couple of years. But Bobrovsky, for me, is still top 3, top 2 at that, because of the playoffs. Overall, in the last 3 seasons, going to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, playing phenomenal on all of the runs, I have to have him in my top 3. I have to have him in my top 3. I have to have him number 2. I couldn't justify putting him above the guy at number 1, but he has to be top 2 for me. Again, I've been saying this a lot through the playoffs and in the Florida Panthers videos I've made. He doesn't have the sexiest career numbers, just in terms of overall career numbers on paper. But when he locks in, and he can play phenomenal. Again, just the back-to-back Stanley Cups, there's really no other way. Like, I have to have him up there in the top 3. There's just no doubt about it. And again, I feel like without him, I don't know if Florida wins a cup. A cup. Being completely blunt. And finally, at number 1, we have Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets with a 47-12-3 record with a 2.01 goals against average and a .925 save percentage. Back-to-back Vezina trophies. Again, Hellebuck's playoff numbers are not the greatest. In fact, they're probably one of the worst of any goaltender on this list. But his regular season numbers and the way this guy can just play, he is a lock. First and foremost for the Hockey Hall of Fame. There is no doubt about that. And overall, I really do think that his numbers throughout his entire NHL career have been just great all around and very exciting and just is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. All he needs is a Stanley Cup, honestly, and I think that he's a lock for the Hockey Hall of Fame, a first ballot lock at that. We'll just have to see if he gets there with Winnipeg, but overall, the last 3 seasons for him have been great every single year. I just can't put him any lower than number 1. He is the best goaltender in the entire National Hockey League, and there's no doubt about it for me. So that is it for my top 20 goaltenders list. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video down below, and please do consider subscribing. We do this every single season, and subscribe for more hockey content as well. We'll be doing our top 50 wingers, top 50 defensemen, top 50 centers, and top 50 players as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.